There was once a porcupine named Eben who lived deep in the woods. He had no neighbors because he lived miles away from everyone else and only saw other animals once in a month on the farm market day. Eben spoke to no one. He was always on his own. He was very grumpy, and the other animals would warn their cubs against associating with him. The porcupine didn't care much for their company. He worked very hard to produce most of what he needed and only went to the market on rare occasions. The other animals told tales about the porcupine. They said he had eaten up all his relatives and as such lived in isolation. The porcupine paid them no mind as he walked on the lonely path from the village square to his home. One day, a rabbit moved into the village. His name was Vincent. He was young, energetic, and very friendly. He tried to make a home near the other animals, but soon realized that all the farmland had been taken, so he had to move further down into the woods. He became a neighbor to the porcupine. The other animals warned him about making friends with Eben. They told him tales of how Eben had eaten his whole family. Vincent listened to their warnings, but after some time he got bored and he decided to go to his new neighbor's house. He was too friendly and too curious to remain on his own side of the woods. So he took a basket of fruits and went to visit Eben. Eben almost had a heart attack when he heard the knock on the door. He hadn't had any visitor in years and certainly wasn't expecting anyone. He went close to the door after Vincent had been knocking for a while. He opened it slightly and said with a grumpy look on his face, "What do you want?" Vincent, undeterred, said to him, "I brought some fruits for you. My name is Vincent, and I am your new neighbor." "I don't want your fruits," he muttered back. "I have mine," he said as he slammed the door. Vincent was a bit disappointed by his new neighbor's behavior, but he had been warned about him, so he decided not to give up. He tried again the next day. The next day was worse. Eben drove him away again and warned him to never come back. As he left, he wondered why the porcupine was so guarded and grumpy, and the porcupine, on the other hand, stood in his living room, wondering why the rabbit was so trusting and happy. Hadn't the villagers spoken ill of him to the rabbit? On the next market day, Vincent and Eben met along the way to the village market. Vincent smiled broadly as he hopped towards Eben. Eben frowned his face and walked briskly, looking straight ahead. "Hello, Mr. Eben. I'm glad you came out today. I have been looking forward to seeing you." "Seeing me for what? Do I owe you anything? Please, leave me alone. I like my space." Vincent persisted. "We are neighbors, and it is good for us to look out for each other, or at least keep each other company, since we are so far away from everyone else." At that moment, Eben stopped to address Vincent in a rage. "I don't want to keep you company, and I certainly don't want your company. Don't look out for me, because I won't be looking out for you. After all, no one in this village has ever looked out for me." He stormed off before Vincent could respond. This time, Vincent felt very hurt and decided to leave Eben alone. The two continued to live like strangers, Eben working on his farm and Vincent searching for nuts and berries. One day, while they were out and about doing their daily activities, Vincent noticed it was about to rain. The clouds were so thick and dark, and it seemed the rain would be very heavy. He quickly took his tools inside and set up a fire in his living room. Just then, the wind started blowing. It was so strong it felt like it would knock his house down. The fire he put on went out, and the place became really cold. He took his blanket and covered himself. The wind grew even stronger. By now, the doors and the windows of his house rattled. Vincent became a bit frightened. The rain started, and it became worse. The thunder hit so hard it tore his roof. He held onto his blanket tightly as he thought, "I hope Eben is all right. Should I go and check on him?" And immediately he shook his head. "No, Thunder struck again. This time it was even louder, and it caused more damage to his roof. At this point, Vincent decided to go in search of Eben. He ran out the door and through the woods. He could see Eben's house in the distance. The door was wide open, and the windows shook violently. Even with all the commotion, it still seemed strange that Eben would leave his door opened. He began to worry that Eben was not okay, so he cried out, "Eben! Eben! Where are you?" There was no response. He ran into the house and yelled at the top of his lungs, but Eben wasn't there. He ran to his back shed and called out again. Then he heard a faint response, "I am here." For a second, he wondered whether he was just imagining the response. He called out again, "Eben!" This time, the response was slightly stronger, and it was coming from the back of the shed. Vincent rushed to the back of the shed, and then he saw him. A branch of a big tree had pinned Eben down, and he could scarcely breathe. Without a word, Vincent went into action. He used all his strength to push the branch slightly, just enough for Eben to roll out from under it. When he came out, he was very weak and cold. Vincent ran to get his blanket to cover Eben. He shielded him from the cold. Eben looked up at him, his eyes barely opened. "Thank you," he whispered. Vincent nodded as he made sure his neighbor was properly covered. The wind was still very strong, and Vincent started shivering. But he didn't want to leave Eben, since the roofs of their houses had been destroyed. He took Eben to a nearby cave, and they both spent the night there. The next morning, the rain stopped, but they were both very hungry and weak. Eben felt a bit better, as he had warmed up under Vincent's blanket. He went to his shed to get some corn and wheat he stored up for the rainy season. He was used to the rains in this season, as he had lived here most of his life. He brought the food back, and they ate together in silence. The silence spoke words they couldn't articulate. They were very thankful for each other's presence. Vincent broke the silence with a question. "Does it rain very often here?" Eben responded, "The rainy season goes on for 4 months in the year, and during this period, the storms are really bad, so we prepare for them. We usually store food and fix the roofs." Then he looked away sadly and said, "It was one of these storms that took away my family. I was very little, and my parents had left me at home. They went in search of wood with my sibling. They warned me not to come out or open the door, as the storm was near. It rained so heavily that day. I waited and waited, but they never came back. They died in the storm, and I was left to fend for myself. No one came to help me. I was upset and refused to speak to the other animals, because they kept whispering whenever I passed them, like they blamed me for my family's passing." Vincent's eyes watered. He was in shock. "So that's what happened to your family," he said. "I'm so sorry." He decided not to tell Eben what the villagers had said, but promised himself to set the record straight with them when given the opportunity. The rabbit immediately felt the urge to hug the porcupine. As he went towards him, he remembered his spikes, so he chuckled, and then he took his blanket and put it around the porcupine and hugged him. They became such good friends from that day. They rebuilt Eben's house together. They stayed in the porcupine's house throughout the rainy season and ate the food he stored in his shed. They also rebuilt the rabbit's house after the rainy season and lived side by side happily ever after. We all have a porcupine in our lives. Sometimes we are the porcupine, and we have that friend that simply never gives up on us. The porcupine had spikes, and when the rabbit wanted to hug him, he used a blanket. If we get close to anyone, remember they would have spikes. In a human being, these spikes may mean flaws or fears of failure, or sometimes rejection. Remember to cover that flaw with a blanket of love when dealing with them. Because, believe it or not, you have your spikes too. But together, we are stronger and more equipped for the storms of life. The end. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Share it with a friend that needs a hug.